Hi gang, so I've just got back literally a few minutes ago from Golden Demon 22, something I didn't really ever think I'd go to. I'm not much of a pro painter. I tend to paint big batches. I haven't got the patience to do anything like I saw over this weekend, but it was actually really, really fun. I've been invited by Games Workshop to take part in something called the Hobby Challenge, a one-day event, which I'll go through and show my entry a bit later. But when we entered it, we got one of these, and that says Golden Demon on it. So I just entered my first model in Golden Demon. Sort of. So Golden Demon UK 2022 just happened, and the winner, Chris Clayton's been announced on social media with his incredible Gargant. And yeah, there were loads and loads of incredible entries there too, but that wasn't why I was there. Golden Demon's always been a little bit of a strange event, right? Mostly people turn up and drop off their models, and then once all the models are in, there is a judging process that takes time, and then the winners are announced, which kind of means you have to build something around it to make it an event. The last time I remember going was Warhammer Fest, maybe a year or two before lockdown. And I know it's happened at Games Day before, which I've never been to, but those are full of other things, stalls, panels, painting lessons, seminars, and they're usually held in much larger capacity venues. Obviously, they haven't been able to do it for a few years, so this time it was at Warhammer World, which is much smaller capacity, but they still needed other events. And one of the great ideas this year, which is something I kind of remember happening under a different name before, was the Hobby Challenge, which was really, really similar to what used to be called Scrap Demon. The idea was that you're meant to get there, build something, paint it, and have it done in a day, and then there's like a Scrap Demon trophy for the person who wins, which is exactly my sort of thing, as much more of a converter than a painter, I guess. So yeah, I was contacted, asked to take part along with a load of other kind of YouTuber sort of types, and I turned up at 10 a.m. on Saturday morning with very little prior knowledge of what I was meant to be doing, and met up with everyone else. We got some lovely little swag bags, which is quite nice, with like pins and things in it. Actually was really useful as a way to carry my camera equipment around all weekend. And I met up with all the other people doing it, many of whom I'm sure you'll recognize. We'll go through them all later. And then we were led through probably about 10:30 to start our Hobby Challenge, into the Hobby Challenge section. So anyone could buy a ticket for this, and this is how it worked. Anyone who got the ticket got one of the special event models. So those are the Primaris Company Champion, which is this guy, or for Age of Sigmar, Murgruk the Watcher, Swamp Caller Shaman, with a big stick thing there. So you were given one of those for your ticket price, which was, I think, much less than these actually cost normally, so worth doing. And then given access to just a huge table of sprues and bits, very random, lots of Age of Sigmar and 40k bits in there, a lot of terrain, things like that. And then you basically had one day to build the model, convert it in some interesting way, and then get it painted and on the judging table. The paint deadline was something like 4 p.m. So kind of, if you were really efficient, you'd have 5 or 6 hours minus lunchtime. So I got these. The first time I set eyes on these was at 10:30 in the morning, and I started trying to think of good ideas. My initial thoughts were, you want to do something like big and impressive, right, for this sort of thing. These are both like human-sized models. So obvious idea. Make this guy into a statue, put him on a plinth or something, make him look like a statue. That's something you can paint pretty quickly, and I could use a load of weathering on it, which is the sort of thing I like doing. Other option was this guy, maybe with, inspired a bit by Russ from A Tale of Four Gamers. If there was a massive flag, what's the biggest flag you could build? I mean, I'd have to find some way of weighting the base, but yeah, that was the other option. So those were my initial ideas. When I got in there, there was a fair amount of terrain. There was lots of Age of Sigmar Chaos stuff, which I guess you could use to Chaos up a Space Marine. Some people went down that route. Or to provide enemies for a little diorama, which a lot of people did. But the big thing that stood out to me was, okay, let's go with a statue idea. So I started hoarding stuff. Not hoarding, there was tons there, so I wasn't stealing anything from anyone. I'd brought along, I honestly didn't know what I was going into, so I brought a little kit of hobby supplies. We were given snips and a mold line scraper, which is something I've never used. But I didn't, like, every model I've painted for years has been in this room with all my stuff, and I have ways I do things. So I was a bit worried, and I bought a little box with, like, you know, a hobby knife and green stuff and a straight edge ruler so I could cut things. Yeah, not really knowing what I was going into. But yeah, we set up on the table and we all just started to build. We basically took up 2 tables in the middle where we could see and chat to everyone who was coming in, and then the rest of the tables filled up over the day as people had, you know, looked around the cabinets and then come to do their hobby challenges. I was on a table with K-Legs, with Silver Paints and Quipster Nerd and Rach, the Warhammer girl, and just opposite us on what I think became the competing table was Guy from Midwinter Minis and the lads from Goonhammer. And yeah, we all just started building and slightly freaking out while we were doing it. And there was something really nice about it. I don't know, it was a really nice day. I think so many of us just, for good reason, and I get it, painting and building is like a solo exercise. I don't really do it around other people. I do it all here. And being able to like swap ideas or tips or share tools or ask for like, oh, you know, I need a dark grey paint. Anyone have any idea what I can use? Or show people when they're trying to do things, you know, help people out with stuff like that. There's something really fun about it. And we were all obviously in this like, not stressful, but like, you know, slightly pressured environment. And yeah, it was a really fun day while we all built random things. So how did I build this? I started off identifying some Warcry terrain sprues. I think they're Warcry, maybe they're just Age of Sigmar terrain sprues. And then I used a jeweler's saw to chop them all down to the right size to make like a big plinth base. Once that was all glued together, and I had to use a load of green stuff to fill a gap really roughly. Like none of the green stuff was dry when we started painting this. Once that was built, I managed to get hold of some 40k Mechanicum, like I think they're from like some sort of Mechanicum sector terrain, and made a little like archway sort of structure on top of that, and then filled the top in with panel plates from some other Mechanicum structure. I had to like use bits of the plastic packaging that the models came in to provide like flat bases for the next level to go on. And then finally I just stuck the Marine on top. That was the quickest thing, was just like, yeah, assemble the Marine. I had to chop his foot free of its rock that it's on and then glue him on top. Most of us managed to get that done by maybe 12-ish. So in an hour and a half, 2 hours. And then we gave it to the Games Workshop guy who took it away for spray painting. You could have them spray painted, undercoated, any color you wanted. But a lot of people there, cleverly, I think, I saw people do this and then thought that's a good idea, had opted to ask him to spray it black and then spray it zenithal white from the top, because that just makes a lot of things faster. So we got those back, and last thing I did before lunch was literally just pour almost half a pot of contrast paint directly from the pot onto it and let that dry while I went to get some lunch. So we came back from lunch, everyone came back with their, and basically spent 3 hours painting frantically. A lot of contrast paints were used because they go on quick. A lot of dry brushing was employed. I dry brushed the whole of this Celestra Grey with a bit of sponge because it's just a lot faster. We realised there was a point where lots of us had realised we were building great big dioramas out of the building kits, and then realised that the biggest brush was a dry brush. So yeah, maybe a mistake. And again, spent the afternoon just getting tips and ideas and frantically weathering away. The guy on top was painted in a couple of shades of bronze and a few mixes of bronze and Runefang dry brushes. And then Guy from Midwinter gave me some tips on how to use the Nihilakh Oxide paint, which is like a green verdigris thing that then I guess ties in those warm colours of the guy on top with the cold colours of the rest of the base. But yeah, we submitted everything probably about 3:30, 4 people were starting to get things in. And then we looked at all the other entries. And I guess what was really fun about that was just seeing how everyone, I mean, this folds into what I thought of Golden Demon generally the next day, but how everyone approached this weird challenge. Like, you've only got 3 hours. Once you've built it, you've probably only got 3 hours to paint something. So what can you do that looks finished in 3 hours? Like, there were some people there who'd sprayed it black and then just did everything monochrome edge highlighting, or only black, white, dry brushing, like a monochrome scene, black and white dry brushing and red blood, like really stylized things that might not take as much. Some of the entries were absolutely amazing, really, really nice. I thought I'd done well. I thought I'd done okay, but I was definitely pushing for like, mine's the biggest. So will that get me points? So what is the final model? Well, here it is in all its glory, my massive statue to, I guess, this Space Marine on top. It's about 10 inches tall, and it's going to be used as terrain for me. I'm actually really pleased with how it came out. The one thing I thought afterwards that I probably should have done is tried to locate some sort of Nurgle or Skaven bell and made it a bell tower. That would have made it clearer what it was. Or maybe another little plinth on top to make it more clear that he's a statue. But I think that's pretty obvious. But yeah, there is my entry into technically Golden Demon. As it turned out, none of us random YouTubers and Instagrammers won this lovely Ultramarine diorama, won the entire thing. It was brilliant. But yeah, it was genuinely fun to see, you know, what people made in that situation, what they put together. So yeah, much fun was had by all, and then we all went to check into our hotels for the night and went out for drinks, and then came back on the Sunday for Golden Demon. Well, I mean, Golden Demon had been running, but the results were on the Sunday. All the stuff was in by then, and we could have a look around the cabinets. And yeah, I guess it was in, as I said, I've seen Golden Demon before, but it was interesting to see it just having come out of a challenge like that. A lot of us doing the challenge said that one of the most fun things about it was the fact that so many of us paint in such processes, like whether you're a single miniature painter and you spend weeks or months on a model, or you're like me and you spend weeks with 100 Marines in front of you doing all the legs and then all the guns and then all the whatever next. Sometimes it's really nice to just remind yourself that you can do something in like an evening, like 3 hours. Start something, have a passable mini finished a few hours later, and just focus on that. And a lot of us said like that was one of the most interesting things. Of course, that then colors, especially a converting based challenge, then colors how you look at Golden Demon the next day. As I said, like usually my response to Golden Demon is, those are really cool, can't do that. It's like an really impressive thing, but I don't have the, I guess, skill, but also the time or patience to develop the skills, I always thought, to do this. But looking at everything in the case is really interesting. Obviously, the standard is very, very high. There hasn't been a Golden Demon in the UK for a few years, so this is stuff that people have been painting in, like, as Quipster said, in the busiest period of hobbying ever, and finally getting to attempt it. But much less than the painting, like I can look at a lot of that painting and go, I don't really understand the terminology properly, but I can understand like, okay, that's really well blended. That's really well free-handed. Those are really good. But what I actually found much more interesting was the choices in things like dioramas, like the choices of perspective, the choices of what model to enter. So for me, like it was stuff like that that was really interesting. Someone had like a Hero Quest dwarf or had entered an epic scale Tyrannid Carnifex. People had done beautiful conversion work on dioramas and scenarios. The terrain work was really, really clever. In fact, I realized that the winning entries, painting was incredible, but actually the thing that was so amazing was the way the water effects work and the way the foot through the water works. All those choices, the dogfights of Aeronautica planes, all that I found really, really interesting. And I did come away going, maybe I should try it. I mean, I certainly don't have the skills to do the painting level required to build it, but then you look at a lot of it and you're like, okay, but I have all the skills to do all that weathering and all that diorama and all that terrain stuff. And some of it you looked at and went, that's really good. And actually, I reckon I might be able to do something like that. So yeah, we also met loads of people there for whom this was their first Golden Demon. And they were just doing it to see what would happen. It's just nice to see your model in a case. So yeah, I realized that I technically entered this year. Hobby Challenge counts. Got the card to prove it. But yeah, I'm kind of considering having a go in a year's time, if I remember, or have the time to do it, or have a suitable thing. But otherwise, yeah, it was a really fun weekend. Lots of social media was created by all of us, mostly just reposting each other's stuff. It was lovely to hang out with the people that I don't see very often except for on the internet. and who share this weird thing we all do. And it was great to just see all the work and be part of it. So yeah, I've had a really fun weekend. I'm now going to turn this thing, what I built, into some terrain, probably lose the base or rebase it to match my board, and then I'll use it in the games. I'm sure it'll end up in this cabinet that increasingly becomes full of stuff I made on this channel. I really liked it. I really enjoyed it. I will be going back, and I thoroughly recommend it, actually. That's probably the end thing to say here, isn't it? If you're thinking of going to something like this, be aware that, you're going to go and you're going to give in your model, and then you're going to wait, basically, until the judging happens, till everyone's given in their model. Something like this is a fun little way to while away the day, snaffle yourself some fun bits of terrain or sprues or whatever, and do something else with your time. It was really good. That was a fun weekend. I'm now going to embark on a hurried week of trying to relearn Necromunda, because next weekend I'll be going to SumpCon, Sump City Radio's Necromunda event. So a couple of weekends away, but really fun. I hope you enjoyed my little rundown of what it was like, and we'll see you all next time. Have fun.